6 people dead at a mass shooting at a Christian school for 6th graders and under in Tennessee. The shooter also killed. Watch this.
A sad update on the breaking news out of Nashville at this moment. Authorities confirming 3 children and 3 adults are dead in the school shooting there. The shooter, who's a female suspect, is also dead. Now, you're taking a live look from the scene at Convent School, a private Presbyterian school in an affluent neighborhood in Nashville. This is a suburb there, and the incident took place just a short time ago. And police say they engaged the shooter. The Nashville Fire Department said on Twitter it is still an active scene. Obviously, there are multiple patients with conditions not immediately clear at this point. The Convent School has had an enrollment of about 200 students from preschool through 6th grade.
At a press conference, this woman, who said she and her son survived the mass shooting in Highland Park, Illinois, appeared and blasted lawmakers for not passing more gun control laws.
Aren't you guys tired of covering this? Aren't you guys tired of being here and having to cover all of these mass shootings? I'm from Highland Park, Illinois. My son and I survived a mass shooting over the summer. I am in Tennessee on a family vacation with my son, visiting my sister-in-law. I have been lobbying in D.C. since we survived a mass shooting in July. I have met with over 130 lawmakers. How is this still happening? How are our children still dying, and why are we failing them? Gun violence is the #1 killer of children and teens. It has overtaken cars. Assault weapons are contributing to the border crisis and fentanyl. We are arming cartels with our guns and our loose gun laws, and these shootings and these mass shootings will continue to happen until our lawmakers step up and pass gun safety legislation. I'm pretty sure this was an unsecured weapon that this teenager got a hold of. We can't even pass gun safety, like safe storage laws in this country to protect kids from getting a hold of weapons that they shoot each other with. Aren't you guys tired of this? Are you guys sick of it? We have to do something. We'll all have to call our lawmakers, and we all have to make our lawmakers make change now, or this is going to keep happening, and it's going to be your kid and your kid and your kid and your kid next, because it's just a matter of time.
Notice how she tossed around the term assault weapon, referred to the shooter as a teenager. Turned out the shooter was 28 years old. And right on cue, Democrat politicians like President Biden called for more gun control legislation.
And we have to do more to stop gun violence. It's ripping our communities apart, ripping the soul of this nation, ripping at the very soul of the nation. And we have to do more to protect our schools so they aren't turned into prisons. You know, the shooter in this situation reportedly had 2 assault weapons and a pistol, 2 AK-47. So I call on Congress again to pass my assault weapons ban.
Again? He said assault weapons. And John Ray Clemens, chairman of the Tennessee Democratic House Caucus, said today on CNN, quote, "You can buy an AK out of a trunk of a car in a public parking lot in Tennessee," end quote. False, host Jim Sciutto, to whom he said this. An actual AK-47 is a fully automatic and is illegal to buy and sell in America without a specific license and unless fully registered before May 1986. And Jim Sciutto said, since the beginning of this year, there have been over 130 mass shootings. Really? John Lott is president of the Crime Prevention Research Center, crimeresearch.org. John, had Congress passed the so-called assault weapons ban that Biden has been touting, would this tragedy have been avoided?
Look, I mean, we had a federal assault weapons ban. We have various state assault weapons bans. The federal assault weapons ban that we had no impact, no beneficial impact on the rate of mass public shootings that occur in the United States. You know, it's bizarre. A couple weeks ago, Biden goes to California. He's upset about all the mass public shootings that California's had. He calls for an assault weapons ban, background checks on private transfers of guns, red flag laws. The irony is California already has all those laws. The guns that were used in the attacks came from California, within the state there. He doesn't seem to understand that California, with its high rate of mass public shootings, may not be the template that the rest of the country wants to go and follow, that these laws don't make a difference. It's not one mass public shooting this century that would have been stopped by these background checks on private transfers of guns any place in the country, even if the law had been perfectly enforced. I mean, we could go through the different things, but I want to do something, but I want to do something that matters. Look, we had yet another mass public shooting in a place where guns are banned. In Tennessee, it's a crime punishable by 6 years in prison for taking a gun into a school, whether it's public or private. Well, for you or I, that's a real penalty. 6 years in prison, our lives would be completely destroyed and upended. But let's say, like this person that went and killed 6 people, that they had lived, and they would have faced 6 life sentences or 6 death penalties. Is the notion that, well, an additional 6 years in prison on top of the 6 life sentences, that would stop them from doing it? The point is that when you have these types of laws, what they do is they're obeyed by law-abiding citizens, and somebody who wants to go and kill lots of people for whom this additional 6 years is irrelevant, go and target those places precisely because they'll be the only people that will have a gun there. Their goal is to murder people. Their goal is to get media coverage, and they do that by killing more people because they get more coverage then. And they know if they go to a place where victims aren't able to go and defend themselves, they're going to be able to go and kill more people. They spend 6 months or a year or 2 years planning these attacks. These guys aren't stupid. They know that they need to get more media coverage, and the way that they get that is by killing more people.
John, what is your take on Joe Biden referring to this as an assault weapon? The lady that appeared at the press conference also used the term assault weapon.
Look, what they usually have meant are military style weapons. These are, style is the key word, dealing with the outside of the gun, how it looks cosmetically. About 85% of the guns in the United States are semi-automatic guns. That means one pull the trigger, one bullet comes out, it reloads itself, one pull the trigger, one bullet comes out, and so on. To go and ban certain guns based on how they look rather than how they function just doesn't make any sense to me. But look, the AK-47 or the AR-15, they fire bullets that are the same as any semi-caliber hunting rifle. The AR-15 fires relatively small caliber bullets compared to the AK-47. But the point is that they fire the same bullets with the same rapidity, doing the same damage. And just because a gun looks like a military weapon on the outside. Look, even the Associated Press last year, in its influential style book, came out and said the term assault weapon is nonsensical. To go and talk about military style is just a politically loaded term. There's none of these guns that are used in these mass public shootings are military weapons. There's no military around the world that uses these types of guns. They use real military weapons that have some type of mode for some type of automatic fire that's there.
Well, John, the representative from Tennessee said that it is legal in Tennessee to sell an AK-47 outside of a trunk of a car.
Well, if you're talking about a civilian version of the gun, okay, which is a semi-automatic, Tennessee allows private transfers of guns. But, again, I would just say point to one mass public shooting this century that would have been stopped if you had background checks on the private transfers of guns. If it worked, point to one case. The media, politicians go out, they call for these laws, and I wish sometimes the reporters would say, well, you're calling it for this law after this attack. Would this law have stopped this attack? And the couple of times where reporters actually have the gall to ask a question like that, the guys say, well, it wouldn't have stopped this attack, but we still need to have this just in case it would stop something in the future. I want to stop these attacks, but I look at these mass public shootings. You have 94% of the mass public shootings taking place in areas where guns are banned. Let's do something that's relevant for these things. I guess I just find it very frustrating that the other side seems to claim that, they have the mantle of wanting to go and do something. But all they want to do is make it difficult for law-abiding citizens to be able to go and own guns for their own protection.
And John, all day I'm watching coverage, and not one single person raised the issue of how often Americans use guns to defend themselves, how many lives have been spared because people have been able to get access to a gun, and as you pointed out many times, merely brandishing it to break off an attack that might have resulted in their death or serious bodily injury. That never, ever, ever comes up.
Well, that not only doesn't come up, but the fact of these gun-free zones. We just had an attack in a gun-free zone. We have these killers talk about it in their manifestos and diaries about why they picked the targets that they did. Isn't that newsworthy? Isn't that useful for understanding what types of rules we might have to stop them? But yet the media refuses. Why does the media refuse to mention that these attacks are occurring in places where guns are banned? You know, it just doesn't make any sense to me other than just pure bias, because I think the entire debate that we have right now would be different if they'd have quotes from things like the Buffalo mass murder from last year, where he said his ideal target was a place where guns were banned. His ideal target was a place where people couldn't carry concealed handguns, because otherwise it'd make it more difficult.
John, last thing, Jim Sciutto of CNN said, since the beginning of this year, there have been over 130 mass shootings in America. True or false?
It's a bizarre comment. Look, people can make up any definition that they want to have, all right? But what they do is they go and they point to mass public shootings like what happened in Tennessee, and then go out and say, well, we have 130 of these. Okay, the difference is these numbers are from a place called the Gun Violence Archive. They define a mass shooting as 3 or more people injured and or killed. The vast majority of these are just three people injured. But the thing is, they're not like the case that we just saw in Tennessee. These are overwhelmingly, almost 90% of them are gang fights over things like drug turf. And the causes and solutions, there's a reason why the media doesn't cover most of these gang fights over drug turf that are occurring, okay? They don't have the same impact. It's a reason why Biden, when he gives examples and then goes and mentions the number of mass shootings, gives only examples of these mass public shootings where 4 more people killed in a public place, not involving some other type of crime like a robbery or a gang fight over drug turf, where the sole purpose of the attack is just to go and kill innocent people there, not to go and kill rival gang members that are fighting over drug turf. And so, look, you know, I wish the media was at least somewhat skeptical of the types of numbers. The Gun Violence Archive is a gun control group. They were recently caught lobbying the Centers for Disease Control to remove any data on defensive gun uses from the CDC website, and they were successful in doing it. And their explanation for why the CDC should remove that data focused in part on the fact that having that information out there made it hard to pass the types of gun control laws that the Gun Violence Archive wanted to get passed. I mean, you know, it's just, you have these gun control groups make up their data, use their own definitions for things, and then have media all over the country constantly use their information.
And then have people like Jim Sciutto, like lemmings, like parrots, just repeating the stuff that you just now said is flat out not true. John Lott, president of the Crime Prevention Research Center, crimeresearch.org. As always, John, thank you for coming on. I hate to have you on at a time like this, but I appreciate your availability. Thank you.
Well, thank you for being there, Larry. I appreciate it. People can find more at our website at crimeresearch.org, crimeresearch.org.
Okay. Thanks, John.
Thank you.